Squawk Box CEOs and policymakers are gathering this morning in Washington at the annual National Competitiveness Forum to focus on jobs, manufacturing, and the U.S. economy. Joining us right now is Senator Jerry Moran of Kansas, a co-chair of the Senate Competitiveness Caucus, formed in partnership with the U.S. Council on Competitiveness, the host of today's forum. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I'll just throw it out there. What are you planning to tell these folks today?
Well, I think the topic obviously is competitiveness, and most of us grew up in America wanting to be competitive. But the reason that we need to be competitive today, we need to be competitive in our economy, is because the word jobs. And what competitiveness is about is keeping jobs in the United States, growing the number of jobs that are available to Americans, getting better jobs for Americans, more job security, higher paying jobs, and creating an opportunity for us to live the American dream. So competitiveness sounds like something we all are for. But the reason we're for it is we're pursuing the American dream for the American people.
Senator, let me ask you a question about tax reform under a Trump administration and a House and Senate controlled by the Republicans. One of the things that people are talking about not only is lowering the rate to make our companies more competitive, but about repatriating capital to the United States. That has long been seen as an opportunity potentially to create more jobs in this country. But one of the questions we've asked over the past couple of days of CEOs who've joined us is we've said, if you could repatriate all this cash, what would you do with it? We talked to the CEO of Stryker this morning, the CEO of Cisco 2 days ago. Most of them do not talk about hiring more people, creating R&D centers, things like that. They talk about buybacks, dividends, and perhaps some mergers and acquisitions. How do you think about that then?
Well, I mean, you have to take the longer view, which is that if our companies are in the right form, the format, at the right structure, it means that they can better compete in a global economy and therefore create new jobs. And so my view is that that job creation follows. But of course, I mean, what you really do want to see is in the investment by businesses in increasing their technology, their hiring to invest in this country. Right. And I think that's the goal here.
You wouldn't just pad the ranks, add 400 or 500 people everywhere and just hire them and hope something comes around where they got something to do? Or
we can't do that. The business has to get itself in. Well, you just can't.
I would mandate that you do that. You hire or you don't bring it back. Hire 5, 6, 8, maybe 1,000 people. And then hope there's some demand, or else you're going to have to fire them like next month.
Yeah, this is not a short-term issue. This is a long-term issue. If you're absent a job, you want it today, and we want to help people accomplish that. But in the long term, this country's economy has to accommodate those jobs.
Nice to work on the demand. Let's work on the demand.
Realistically, what do you think the corporate tax rate is going to be? Donald Trump has proposed 15%. Others have suggested we're closer to 20, 25%. Where do you think the number really lands?
I don't know what that number is going to be, but your point about a Republican in the White House, a Republican control of the House and Senate, I would correct your words. We have a majority of Republicans in the Senate. It's difficult to say that's control. So it will be a legislative process and negotiations, but I do think that so-called tax reform, modification of the rates, elimination of some of the complications is certainly front and center. And I hope that repatriation is not just a one-shot thing, that it's a component of tax reform so that this isn't just bring the money home at the moment and still have a tax code that discourages that from happening in the future.
Senator, how quickly do you think in 2017 we can get this legislation passed?
Well, I predicted tax reform as one of the things that a different Congress in the past would be able to accomplish. I was wrong. Senator, it hasn't happened to date.
I have to break in. I apologize.